If you despise Sky Striker and Salamangreat and want a deck that destroys these two and is also fun at the same time, you do not want to miss this video. So getting right into this, let's start by talking about what Nekroz looks like in 2019. So to start, we need to talk about the Nekroz portion of the deck. We really have the Nekroz, the incantations, and we have the other crazy consistency power cards. First, let's talk about the Nekroz monsters. Obviously, we have Unicorn, which is still the best Nekroz to put on the field because it will just prevent the effects of your opponent's special summon monsters. We have Brionac, which actually is really good because not only did it come back to 3 on the most recent limited forbidden list, which means it has a huge consistency impact on Nekroz, but that also means that not only do you get this huge consistency boost, but at the same time, Brionac is just overall actually a really good card this format because of a deck like Salamangreat. So Nekroz of Brionac is also crazy because of the fact that you can shuffle 2 extra deck monsters back into the extra deck, and that's so wild because of the fact that if you're shuffling back Salamangreat monsters, that means that your opponent cannot use the effect of Bale Links in their graveyard. So not only are you forcing out either a counter trap or just any removal on it whatsoever, but if they don't have any removal for it, well then you just cleared both of their extra deck monsters, and maybe all 3 if you can just attack over the last one. Next we have Valcke, which is amazing in unison with incantations, just overall crazy value, and I think that's one big thing about this deck we have to note, is that this deck has massive value, and it just gains so much advantage so quickly because of the snowballing effect that will happen once you start getting things going. For example, we have Valcke, which can obviously tribute 2 incantations and draw 2 cards, and because the incantations are basically free bodies that replace themselves in hand, so for example, if you're special summoning an incantation, special another from deck, then you're getting a search from your deck or a recur from the grave. Not only are you getting a +2, then you summon Valcke and draw 2. That is insane value with the incantations and make the Nekroz package probably the best package to play as a ritual engine with the incantation. Obviously, who can forget Nekroz of Trishula being able to banish 1 from hand, grave, and field is really good this format as well, not only for clearing boards, for dealing with engages potentially, etc. So there's just a lot of good reasons why you want to play Nekroz in 2019. Obviously, there are some issues, and we'll get to that later on in this video, but as of right now, the Nekroz package seems really appealing just in general. Now, the only issue is how do we get the Nekroz monsters on the field consistently? So what do the incantations do? Well, first off, they provide more consistency for the deck. Overall, it just gets you to everything. This deck has issues sometimes because it just has so much redundant consistency. I mean, the fact is, obviously, it's not a bad thing to have redundant consistency, but what I'm saying is that sometimes you just have redundant resources, and that's not a bad thing at all. Next, there are also tributes for Valcke and Zaborg. Remember, these are just free bodies on the field, and I feel as though Nekroz can make utilization of these free bodies the best, because not only can you just use them for, well, ritual summons like they were intended, but you contribute them for Valcke, draw 2, but you also got the search, so you're basically plussing immensely from this. Then you also have another card, which I'll get to in a bit, but basically Zaborg the Mega Monarch is a card. And then from there, we also have to remember that all of these incantations, no matter what, if you basically need a incantation on the field or just a free body in general, well, remember, the thing is, the incantations have a ritual monster, and that ritual monster is searchable through all of the other ritual cards in the deck. And if you want any incantation monsters, well, bam, you get them immediately with the ritual monster. So that is pretty wild, and I gotta say that incantations really bring Nekroz on a whole different level. Next, let's talk about Zaborg the Mega Monarch. This card is wild, absolutely crazy. If you're playing Zaborg the Mega Monarch against a lot of control decks right now, and just a lot of decks in general, and it resolves, you're put in a pretty favorable position to win. If not, it's just an auto win altogether, especially versus Salamangreats and maybe Sky Striker. So the thing is, right, if you're going Zaborg the Mega Monarch popping itself, Not only are you sending 8 cards out of your opponent's extra deck to the graveyard, you are also sending 8 cards out of your extra deck to the graveyard. And the reason why this is relevant is because you're going to be able to send triple Herald of the Arclight. And if you're sending triple Herald of the Arclight, then you're getting 3 searches all together. That is wild and insane advantage. Then you also have to remember you can search totally awesome from there and recur resources from the graveyard to the hand because all of the Nekroz monsters are waters. You have Omega, which can shuffle back resources back into the deck, and you also have Elder Entity Ints, which can help you clear boards in general. Overall, Zaborg the Mega Monarch is absolutely ridiculous. If you're sending 8 cards out of your opponent's extra deck to the graveyard, that just means that literally they're out of resources in their extra deck. Sure, they can keep 2 Balinks, 3 Sunlight Wolf, 2 Heat Leo, and 1 Mirage Stalio, but at the same time that isn't necessarily relevant considering how much advantage you just gained and how little extra deck resources they have now. And if all of that wasn't enough, they have even more power cards slash crazy consistency cards. So with that, we have cards like Manju, which is a Stratos for literally the entire deck. Then you also have Pot of Extravagance, which is, it's Pot of Extravagance. It is a +1, it is a draw 2, and because you don't need your extra deck at all, that just makes this card even better. The only time you need your extra deck is with Zaborg. And even then, maybe you're gonna make like a rank 4 or something, but overall, you don't really need your extra deck, and Pot of Extravagance is just amazing for that +1. Lastly, we have Preparation of Rites, and obviously that's another crazy card that just says, oh, I'll just search any ritual monster in your entire deck, and then those ritual monsters get you anything else in your entire deck. So with the overview of the deck out of the way, here are the strengths and weaknesses of the deck. Starting off, this deck does some incredible resourcing. In general, the fact is right. You have all of these plus cards, you have all of these advantage cards, so you're just going to be a highly consistent deck and a highly resource efficient deck, and that's just really good altogether. And that also helps you immensely in your Sky Striker and Salamangreat matchup. And honestly, it does have a favorable matchup against these 2 tier 1 decks. Zaborg is a blowout, and the amount of pluses in this deck are just too much for Salamangreat and Sky Striker to deal with. It has some decent removal overall, and overall the deck is really solid just in general. However, there are some weaknesses to this deck, and we're going to get into that right now. To start, there is a high lack of defense, which is a big deal because obviously, yes, you're playing all of these consistency cards, and they get you to more ritual monsters, but at the same time, if your ritual monsters don't produce any disruption at all, then what's even the point? Obviously, you can put a bunch of bodies on the board, but then your opponent just clears them with a deck like Danger Thunder Dragon, which I'll get to in a second. But if you're playing this deck and, well, they can clear your board, etc., then that's not really that beneficial to you if you're setting up a board just to protect yourself, and the board doesn't actually disrupt your opponent at all. So there's just a high lack of defense. Obviously, yes, Renewal of the World helps immensely, and that means you can Trish on the opponent's turn. But with all of that out of the way, that doesn't really help you enough, and I think that's a big deal, that this deck just doesn't have a good enough amount of defense. Even against decks like Sky Striker and Salamangreat, it doesn't necessarily matter because they can't OTK nearly as well as a deck like Danger Thunder Dragon. But with all of that out of the way, the second big weakness, and the reason why you will not see this deck right now, is Danger Thunder Dragon. It has a horrible Danger Thunder Dragon matchup because all you're doing is searching and drawing. Obviously, Colossus doesn't affect your drawing, but the fact is, even if being locked out of the extra deck doesn't hurt you, they still have a Negate and a Colossus, and that's really a big deal. Plus, they can easily tear through your boards with just the nightmares in general. So overall, it has a terrible Danger Thunder Dragon matchup, and really that's the big weakness of Nekroz right now. Overall, the deck is solid, and I feel if Danger Thunder Dragon Guard Dragon gets hit, we could potentially see this deck do better in the future.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to support me further than just watching my YouTube videos, go down into the description and support me on Patreon. It helps out quite immensely. As well, if you guys want to talk to me further than just my YouTube comment section, go down into the description and join my Discord server. Thank you guys so much for watching, and with that, I hope to see you soon.